Welcome, welcome, welcome to Health Issues. I'm your host, Chris Sylvain, and I am thoroughly excited about today's program, something that we are deeply passionate about, and we're going to be speaking about abortion. And we have an awesome guest for you today, Dr. Kathy Allen. She's the State Director of the Louisiana Black Advocates for Life, and it's a project of the Louisiana Right to Life group. Welcome, Dr. Allen. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. And let's talk to us about, first of all, I saw this billboard. Let's talk about the billboard and tell us about the Louisiana Black Advocates for Life.
Well, Black Advocates for Life was formed because of a terrible tragedy that exists in the Black community, and that is that we have more abortion in our community than any other in the state of Louisiana. 60% of all abortions in the state of Louisiana are obtained by Black women. So we wanted to make sure that we did something systematic to address this in our community, and Black Advocates for Life evolved out of that need.
Wow. So 60%, even though Black women are only, what, 30% of the population?
Correct. Correct.
Black people are 30%.
Black people are about 32% of Louisiana's population, but we have 60%
of the abortions. So you guys feel like that's targeted?
Oh, yes. Well, we know that historically the Black community has been targeted for abortion. Margaret Sanger and a group called the Eugenics Society of America, the founders of Planned Parenthood, had a project they called the Negro Project, where they decided that our pastors and our doctors were the people we trusted most, and they would ask them to promote things like abortion and birth control in our community to control a population of people, that is Black people and people with disabilities, that they thought were a drain on the resources of the community. So historically we've been targeted for things like abortion and birth control to control our population, and unfortunately it's evolved into a situation where more of us are dying every year from abortion than from the three leading killers of Black people, HIV, cancer, and heart disease.
That is amazing. Now, your Ph.D. is in social policy.
Yes, sir.
Am I right? How's the connection flow between your Ph.D. and your work that you've been doing and this work of getting the data and really kind of seeing how this is affecting genocide against the Black community?
Right. Well, I've always been interested in social justice. What is socially just for our community, people who are disenfranchised, whose voices are not heard. And the voices in this case that aren't being heard are voices of over 6,000 Black boys and girls who are losing their lives before they can take a breath. And likewise, the voices of the women and the men, because men are affected by abortion too, who are living in silence, sometimes in shame, in secrecy, and who are desperately in need of healing. So my work over the past 20 or 25 years or so has been devoted to providing a voice for the voiceless, for people who have a need to be fully included in society and to have their needs addressed, but who, for one reason or another, are not being heard.
Now, a lot of people don't know about Margaret Sanger and that genocide push, the eugenics push is a,
right.
A Nazi type,
right.
a system that they were creating. But that was the original funding for the birth control pill.
That's it. That's right, from the Eugenics Society, and it was an effort to have a society that was thought to be pure and clean and was the most capable of running our communities. And so, in fact, the legacy of that is that now approximately 79% of abortion facilities are located in or near minority neighborhoods. So it's very easy now to easily travel someplace to end an unborn baby's life.
Okay. Now, the left and the right, I guess both sides, but mainly, believes that abortion should be available on demand throughout. I think candidate Clinton, that was an argument on the last debate that abortion should be able to be carried on all the way into delivery, or is that the position?
Well, what we look at is the fact that there are people who believe that a woman has a right to choose what to do with her body, and that abortion is something that enables a woman to choose when she wants to become pregnant, when she wants to have her career. And what we say is that the issue is not a woman's choice, it's that the fact that there are two lives that are involved. By the time a woman discovers that she's pregnant, there are two lives involved. And we believe that that life begins at the moment of conception. And we believe further, when you look at sacred scripture, that God had a plan for that life even before it was in the mother's womb. The book of Jeremiah tells us that before you were knit together in your mother's womb, I knew you, and I consecrated you, and appointed you a prophet to the nations. So abortion kills the purpose that's attached to every child. So beyond whether it's abortion should be available is the question of whether there's life there when a woman's making a choice, and we believe there is. And that's the defining issue for us.
Okay, that is a life that is a life that exists from conception. The minute the sperm hits the egg,
correct,
and at that point we have a baby.
Correct.
All right,
correct.
A life,
a person that has all the rights of a person.
Okay.
And the foundational right is the right to life.
Foundational right is a right to life, and that should be protected.
Yes.
All the way through birth.
Correct.
From the minute of conception
till birth.
Till birth. Okay, and so we had talked about this before. The question will swing out. The statistics and all of the information is based upon usually what happens really 5 weeks in through surgical abortion. But if we say that life begins at conception from the minute the sperm fertilizes the egg, that includes literally every birth control pill also.
Right.
But that part is not publicized, and rarely does anybody even know that birth control pills, the third mechanism is reducing the likelihood of implantation into the womb. That actually means that that's an abortion happening.
Correct. Sure, and we know that when we talk about birth control pills, we're talking about the pharmaceutical industry. We're talking about people who are profiting, and let's be honest, off these kinds of drugs. And it's a sticky issue, but it's something that as Black Advocates for Life we have to raise when we look at the number of people in our community who are affected by this. And I will tell you, I've met men and women who are far older than I, who are still suffering in the aftermath of abortion. So we can't say it's something that's harmless, but we do have to address birth control because we know that many women feel that it's the availability of birth control that affects our birth rate and what's happening in our community. That if we had more birth control available, then we'd have less abortion. So that's what we're dealing with right now, and I think they're even devoting the month of November to, I think, celebrating birth control and thank you birth control and this sort of thing, which is very odd for me to see in the Black community. But the thing is, we have to realize that the use of birth control is not something that has benefited our community historically, and that we've been targeted for something that's not only harmful to our bodies, but that is causing us to abort living human beings. So that is an issue we're going to have to address, and it is sticky because in the pro-life movement we have some who aren't ready to do it yet. But we are forward moving, and one of the reasons Louisiana Right to Life has developed a project like Black Advocates for Life is we want to step out into that territory and to have that discussion and to broaden the discourse of the pro-life movement and of pro-life ministry.
You're true, a Ph.D. in social policy. That's really good. All right, now, but like you said, let's look at it from the other side. And I hear people saying that what about the babies that are born that need to eat and that need housing and need those things? Is there a push to provide health care and housing, and or at least not provide health care and housing? Your thesis was on lifting economic development up where you don't have to be asking anybody for health care and housing.
Right. Amen. Yeah. And that's another focus of ours. It's another matter of broadening the pro-life discourse to fit the realities of people's lives. The fact is, when you're thinking about having a baby, you want to have insurance. You want to have a decent wage. You want to have housing. You want to be able to support that baby and have a decent quality of life. And that's just a fact. We can say choose life, But when you're thinking about whether to choose life, the fact is you're thinking about what quality of life this life's going to have and your own quality of life. And so to tell a black woman that she has to choose life because abortion is wrong, but to offer her nothing in the way of supports and services is disingenuous, in my opinion.
I love your words. We're in an area in Louisiana of mass incarceration. Mm-hmm. We may be high in abortion, but we're definitely high in incarcerating young African-American males. Mm-hmm. I think and in fact, I think the numbers are similar. The amount of babies aborted surgically are probably similar to the amount of young African-American males that are being mm-hmm. incarcerated. So to a young lady where the baby's father is incarcerated and about to be in the type of life that's going on, she has tough choices.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And when we talk about respect for life, if it doesn't start in the womb, we talk about how Black lives matter and all lives matter and this sort of thing, but you know, the very first life that has to matter is the unborn life. Because if we don't respect and protect that unborn life, we have what results in massive incarceration of young men who don't understand the preciousness of life. In fact, many things like this high incarceration rate and many of our social ills can be traced to the fact that there's not respect for life in the womb, when the life is most vulnerable. So how then, when we're on the streets, can we respect and protect life?
I like that. I think that by pushing life, it should help the criminal justice system understand fairness, because they're dealing with a life that matters.
Sure,
that
absolutely.
If they truly love all lives and Black lives, then they would be pushing for criminal justice reform.
That's it. That's correct.
And economic
reform.
Economic reform
mm-hmm.
to build businesses in Black communities and to make sure that people are able to be self-supported.
That's right. So when we talk about respect for life and the preciousness of life and the sanctity of life, we want to create an environment in which people can live with dignity. And what do you need to live with dignity? You need a job. You need a living wage.
That's right.
You need these kinds of things. And so we don't want to go into our communities and say, choose life, and then leave people to their own devices.
Exactly. That is good. Now, mm-hmm. because you're a Louisiana Black Advocates for Life.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the realism is, because I can hear people jumping up and down in front of their TV set about right through here, and they're saying, "Come on, Chris, you got to ask her."
Okay, calm down, everybody. Okay.
All right, calm down, everybody. All right, because much of the pro-life movement mm-hmm. has shown little regard for alleviating mass incarceration and promoting economic development mm-hmm. in the Black neighborhoods, but mm-hmm. at the same time pushing a pro-life agenda mm-hmm. that doesn't seem to be concerned about the life past birth.
Right, and that's a common criticism we have. But I do applaud my colleagues, those of us who are in the pro-life movement, who have walked this road for many, many years before I came about, okay. Who have been concerned about the preciousness of life and about protecting life at its most vulnerable stage. Because before we get to all the other social issues, we do have to have some serious discourse out here about when life begins and about protecting that life. So I do applaud all those people who have been out here, and I stand on their shoulders. Even though many of them are not African American, I stand on the shoulders of people who have been out here for many, many years, even before Roe v. Wade was passed, to do this work and to begin this discourse. And what I see now is just a need to broaden the discourse to include really very relevant social issues. And of course, you know, you can't address every kind of an issue when you're doing pro-life work and when you're engaged in pro-life ministry. So I think the value of something like Black Advocates for Life is that we can broaden that discourse and bring our perspective on the needs of our community to a discourse that's been strong and a movement that's been very strong, but that realistically right now needs to be broadened so that we can attack the problem where it's most prevalent, and that right now is in the Black community.
All right. I think the people will hold you to that.
That's good.
Yeah, they should. I think they will hold you to it, because, as you said, it would be totally disingenuous And I think that's what the people have been hearing. That's what I've been hearing. A focus on life before the womb.
Right.
But not even the first few weeks dealing with the birth control pill. So it's almost as if grabbing eliminating the first week and then being concerned about life after the first week and then stopping right before birth, but without a concern after birth.
Right.
You know, it's like it's almost pigeonholing only a part of life that's of concern.
Right. And I think even the pro-life movement as a whole is concerned about mothers and babies, and that hasn't always come across. So that is an issue right now for us. We know that there is that perception out here, but we do really care about mothers as well as the babies, and the first thing that needs to happen is just that recognition of when life begins and just keeping women out of those abortion clinics. At the same time, we do have to be mindful of the realities out here when we're talking about ending abortion, that we're at sort of a standstill here in the Black community, and that if we don't end abortion in the Black community, it's not going to end at all. And realistically speaking, for that to happen, we have to look at the kinds of rhetoric and discourse we have going on out here in the community and let women know we do care about you, and here are the kinds of things we're willing to promote for you. And you know, we do work in the legislature as well. We need to start working on policies and laws that help provide what women need after they've given birth, so that people can have a decent quality of life. So we've passed many, many laws that have been very beneficial in stopping harmful kinds of practices, and we're very proud of that. And I'm proud to be a part of a movement that now is looking forward and saying, well, what else do we have to do? Let's address this issue in the Black community.
All right. I think it would be amazing if your message would ever come across that the concern is about that Black Lives Matter from conception throughout the pregnancy,
right.
And it doesn't die down after the pregnancy
right.
ends and the baby's
right.
delivered, and the life is just as valued throughout the entire life
right.
until a natural death through health care and everything.
Right.
I think that'll be powerful, particularly when you look at the genocidal campaign to eliminate Black people that's pushed by many of those in the pro-abortion movement,
right.
or the pro-choice movement or whatever, by single-handedly throwing these clinics in Black neighborhoods literally around the world of population control, just like Margaret Sanger and that whole thing.
That's right. And you know, a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm not involved in pro-life ministry. A lot of people in the Black community say, I'm not involved in this because I don't really know what it's about. But my response is, you do know what it's about. You know that lives matter. You know that Black lives matter. You love your grandchildren. You love your children. You want to have a decent quality of life. You're already pro-life if you believe that you and your family have a right to decent housing, to affordable health care, and to a living wage. You're already pro-life. But what we need is our voices to be united and to have a program of activity that will help us achieve those goals while embracing our brothers and sisters who have been out here for many, many years, doing pro-life work, paving the way for us to add our voices in a significant and substantive way to the discourse.
Now, interesting though, now, people will say you got to be careful who you hang with, okay? So, again, I'll go back again, particularly right now, and I know you guys are not political. Right. I don't think you are.
No, we're not political.
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure. If not, I'm saying let's go for it, but no, we won't push that. But currently, the conservative, the Christian right is so aligned with the alt-right, okay? To whereas I know I personally have voiced much displeasure over the Christian right and their attempts to uplift abortion, but also downplay mass incarceration in this current political movement. It's more wicked than Hitler ever could imagine. And so as long as we're connected, or the Right to Life movement is connected to these groups, can it really present itself to the people as being concerned about the people?
I can see your point, but my feeling is that everybody I haven't met anybody that doesn't believe that every life is precious, that people deserve to live with dignity. But I think sometimes we're wrapped up in ideology and in belonging to a certain group or in having our own agenda pushed forward. And sometimes people are aligned with others who might present themselves in a way that's not really compatible with what we believe as human beings, that everybody should live with dignity. I really don't believe our brothers and sisters on the right believe that nobody has a right to decent housing or health care or anything like that. I don't believe that at their core they don't believe that everybody deserves to live with dignity. But so I try not to get wrapped up in those political labels. I try to address people from the perspective of, I know that you believe that everybody should live with dignity. So how can we move forward with that and provide what people need? I think some of it's driven by economics, the fear that if someone else has something, I will have less, that my community won't be what I would like it to be if another community is built up. So I think a lot of this is really rooted in fear rather than faith. And I think our religious leaders have a responsibility too to dispel this fear-based political rhetoric that is divisive. It's not unifying people, and the pro-life movement is about unity. It's about life. It's about focusing on what we all believe about people, that we all inherently have value, we have worth, and that we deserve to live in communities where that worth is respected and where we have the opportunity to contribute to the community. So I would say that those who are aligning themselves with one party or another, a vision or another, are probably doing that maybe for political expediency, for the sake of belonging to a certain group, or maybe it's a funding issue, maybe it's a business structure issue. But I think that if we go back to the fact that every life is precious and focus on that, then we can remove some of the other barriers.
What I hear from you, and if I can reiterate, is that you're concerned about lives.
Amen.
Particularly, you're not afraid to focus on Black lives.
That's it.
That Black lives matter.
That's it.
And whoever you can agree with, that's going to agree with you in that, you're willing to work with them. And you may not agree with everything that they're talking
That's right.
about.
That's
but
right.
you feel that focusing on these Black lives are important. Do I have that summed that up pretty decent?
That's it. That's it. That I believe that everybody at their core believes this. And so, and when we look at the numbers in the Black community, when we look at the number of Black lives every year from HIV, cancer, and heart disease, and you add them together, there's more Black lives from abortion than from those three major killers combined. So abortion is the #1 killer of Black people in the community, and I think anybody from any political persuasion would say that that's just not right.
Just like people would ask you to extricate yourself from the religious right and so forth because of their attacks at the Black community, the economic base and incarceration, criminal justice issues in the Black community. You could very well look at those who connect with the left and their push on expanding genocide in the Black community through birth control. So, in other words, there's stones to throw all around.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. And we don't want to focus on our differences in approach. We want to focus on those issues on which we agree.
Not to cut you off, but have you guys ever looked at clergy and their role in being able to help push this in a nonpartisan way, whether they be Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whatever? Because I think because I don't know if you have too many Black clergy that are speaking this.
Clergy are essential, and Margaret Sanger and the people who designed the Negro Project know how essential our clergy are. That's why they were targeted to deliver a message to us that it's okay to use birth control and that abortion's okay. Clergy are essential. Our clergy people are people that we trust. They represent Christ to us. They're delivering the Word of God, and whatever your pastor's telling you, you tend to believe as a model for how you should live your life. It's critical that pastors speak on the life issue. And one of the problems we've had in disseminating this message to our community is that many people, even in our churches, are reluctant to break the silence and the secrecy that surrounds abortion. You have people who are worried that their reputations are going to be tarnished, that people will start gossiping about them. I've had one pastor tell me very frankly that the collection plate sometimes is affected when you start to talk about things that people find troubling in some way. I've had one pastor tell me that people threatened to leave the church if he talked about abortion again. It's a very, very serious issue that some people just don't want to hear. And we've got to get to a point where we say, where we look at what God wants us to do in this situation, where we stand on faith rather than fear and start to speak about this. Because there are many, many thousands of men and women in this state who are hurting, who need to be restored to a right relationship with God, who need to know that God's not angry with them, that they still have value in and of themselves, and they have value to the community. And who better than their pastors who are standing before them every week, or sometimes more than once a week. But if someone that you trust that much never says a word about something that's affected you that deeply, you start to believe that it's something that's so terrible that you can't speak about it in public. And so it's the secrecy that's surrounded this has been very, very bad, and it's been a very great obstacle to creating change and getting this message out there. So we do constantly and continually work with our clergy, because we know many of them are pro-life, and they do want to help put this message out there, and we're going to them with a plan to ease into their communities and to work with their own ministers and ministry teams to put the message out there. Because sometimes it helps if people on your own ministry team are the ones to deliver the message. So we're happy to go into churches and talk to pastors and talk to their leaders and give them all the information and tools they need to start having that conversation themselves.
I see Black Advocates of Life is also pushing for health care in other areas to actually balance the concern about life before the womb and life
Correct.
After the womb.
Correct.
To present that. Do you consider adding mass incarceration in that criminal justice reform as something critical, which is, to me, is the biggest priority facing the Black community right now?
That is a very critical issue, but right now our focus is on getting this basic message out to our community that this is a really widespread problem, that thousands of women and men are affected by this, and that our future children, 6,000 boys and girls last year, died before they could take a breath. So our focus right now is getting that basic message out to the community.
Hey, we're going to thank Ms. Allen. She's worked hard. Continue to support. Life is important. Thank you so much.